ကြီးရဲ့ဒိဗ္ဗေများဘာကြီးရဲ့ဒိဗ္ဗေများဟာဟာဟာဟာဟာဟာSappiamo me lai negue De la
Cole, he's my miracle child.
Ain't no miracle child, what the fuck? And make you pay to nobody. Who can make you better body? Those saying body and little say. Fuck. Singing your favorite song. Fuck all Amazon. What's wrong with you now? I'm racist, you and we awake. I see the look on your face. I see your heart in the hate. I see you looking for someone to scoop it right off your feet. This shit is scary as fuck, man. What is this? You want somebody to come bring you flowers. Someone to talk to for hours. Wash your back while y'all sit in the shower. Someone to tell you beautiful. Someone to tell you sleepy. Someone to tell you I love you. Everything you know about to leave you. You want someone to bring you peace. Someone to help you sleep. Someone to pick you up when you're feeling down, feeling lonely. Who can make it better? Somebody who can open up those gates. Open up those gates, your heart. Only if you let me. I'm on the stage right now, singing your favorite song. Look when you're running over to you as they sing. I say you look good without no makeup. Even better when you wake up. Oh, oh, oh. I see you. I see you tired of the hurt, tired of the pain, tired of the nights where you can't get no sleep. I see you tired thinking about if you cheat. See you tired thinking about if you're leaving. See you tired of being so tired. You're damn sure ain't getting somebody who can make it better. Somebody who can open up those gates. Open up those gates of your heart. And I'm on the stage right now, singing your favorite song. Looking around, you know where to come from as they sing along. But say you look good without no makeup. No lashes, even better when you wake up. I see you looking for peace. Tired of the nights where you can't get no sleep. I see you tired thinking about if you're leaving. You're damn sure ain't getting even. Digital technique for high speed design. Wow, nille at the local da de boya. Damn. Te buja de la. Damn, $1, one per month is crazy, bro. It doesn't look good, boys. Oh, Whoa. Ooh, yeah. And that oh boy. Huh? And oh my, wow. Boya. 16 dollars? I can get it cheaper. The fuck? What's going on, man? Come on, give me something, dog. No myogo to kukuro beba. Kuna ba sham lo le. Oh, eh, khota. Di Thai one na kula ma de. Eh, ta khu kaun. Paramo ye pare pi mele mti do de. Chalunge vi kwe. Ooh, hello? They're selling Red Bull for cheap. We gotta buy that shit. Lady. $35? Maybe I can find it here. No. Baramu ye bare pi man le mati do re jalunge bike ha ja. Thank you, Stace. Jala lune yetwe boromu babe. Boromu daime. Boromu ye bare pi man le mti dore. Jalunge vidige. It's cold as balls in here, man. Dang.
You got an amazing.
I'm about to smoke this motherfucker. Exactly, bro. Exactly, bro. Dumb fuck.
Oh no, fuck. That's bad. Oh, that's even worse. Boris, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing, bro? What are you doing, bro?表现下是你家，可路的马的马，马的没不卡隆给呀哒，哦，巴拉姆巴贝，扎耶罗的给的呀拉贝，巴拉姆台贝，巴拉姆也巴的别买了地道的。Fuck, this guy is fucking me up. He's gonna eat me if I don't eat him. Interessante. Oh, I should have ate him. Boom, boom. That would have been more worth it. Then what? Then what? Well, I don't have a choice right now. Oh, but I'm about it. No. Don't do it. Don't do it, motherfucker. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't you dare fucking do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, motherfucker. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you do, I'm quitting the game. If you do, I'm quitting the game. Fuck! He did it. Alright, bro, I'm quitting the game. No, I don't play chess that much. It's just that when I lose, I get angry and I become obsessed with chess for like 2 days and I quit. Amazon is selling, so I'll probably not sell this. So this is $8 for tax purposes. $1,114. How much is it selling though? If I get the money from the refund, I can probably source this. It's selling pretty good, to be honest. Maybe let's check out if I can. Oh, I deleted Instagram though. Fuck. Alright, let's just switch camera for a second. Oh, it's really not here, to be honest. 1407. Thank you. Thank you, Jay-Z. New baby, the fuck? The fuck? I need this, but I could probably get this though. It's Pokemon. Okay, look, where is it selling from? Brand is Pokemon. So let's go to Pokemon.com. I can probably buy something from here. See, you got plushies. Is it not bad? I get a Charizard one. Charizard. These are quite expensive though, no? Pokemon plush. God, these are so cute. Pokemon dolls. Here you go. It's probably super small, but I can get this for $100, which is, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't really matter. Mi volare. 송야 시니자. I can probably get the fucking thing from here, so that looks good. 700 is really good, like it's really fucking good. But let's see if there's any FBA sellers here. Of course, Rivalry Clothing got one. Okay, so there's 4, which is not that much of a competition, probably because this River motherfucking Colony guy is fucking it up. $24, which is really good. So the product is still new, I would say. So yeah, this guy has sold a lot. This guy, so a lot, like a lot. This guy only got 5, and he's not even prime yet. You know what I mean? Like he got 1. Bro, how you gonna send one thing to Amazon? Like one toy, really, bro? Maybe it's just like books. Who knows? So this guy is basically dominating the market. But if we could get our stock up, that could be possible. I'm not saying that. Could it be possible? I mean, people be making money off of this thing just by one product. You know what I mean? Like, let's say the cost price here is $8, I believe, right? Let's just say $8. It's $8. So that would be $7.55 profit. 755 times 1487. 55 times 143. 143 is equal to, that is, wait, what? No, 7.55 times 143 is equal to, damn, that's $1,000 profit by investing $1,000. That's a good fucking sell. But it's just that, like, the motherfuckers has been going a lot. This motherfucker is monopolizing the market, so that's not good. That's the only thing I would say. Even Pikachu is selling. Pikachu will probably sell for more, to be honest. You think so? I think so. They have a higher MOQ. Oh, turns out not, right? Charizard sell for more. Interesting. Interessante. Because it's $24. No, babe. $19? Yeah, these motherfuckers allow receive too. Suicide lover, oh. Oh, I want this. Oh, this was mine. I fucking lost it for some reason. I just need the capital, to be honest. I feel like Amazon is becoming more and more like a higher barrier to entry. Because before, I'm pretty sure you could use like retail shit to, you know, whip up some profit. But now you need like the wholesale prices. In order to get the wholesale prices, these motherfuckers are gonna require MOQ, which is minimum order required. So I need to order at least 1,000 for like this one. So which will be like what, $10,000, which needs to be invested in order to make a profit of like $20,000. The profit is great. Don't get me wrong. These fucking products are gonna sell, and I'm pretty sure like even within the monopolized market, you can find some products that have more sellers and more distribution through the monopoly. But at the same time, you need more capital, right? Like that's the only thing. You need to take the risk. $142, which is not bad. Oh, I got it, man. Why are these all so expensive? The fuck? I think it's such a high amount of MOQ, like it's insane. The other thing is, where the fuck am I gonna store these products? Well, I can do a prep center. That's honest. That's honestly a better way, to be honest. Ole do that. $11. First kiss, why transfer ACH, which is not bad. Owner, business name, business email, business address. Are you gonna send an invoice though? They also offer direct shipment to FBA. We can organize free shipping to almost anywhere in the US. So they're making us take the risk. If they have the product, why don't they just sell it directly to Amazon? That's what I don't get. Maybe let's ask ChatGPT. Whoa, whoa. I think it's mainly about the risk, but I'm not sure. Give me a little lean in my leg. I was waiting for you so long. More down. I was waiting for you so long. Oh down. This is selling for 119. Espresso's Vorto Plus. I think I found it here also. Not this. Right here. So this guy is $110. So they are selling on directly on Amazon. Some of the products. So that's 110, and this one is 120. J-Boo. Then on it to J-Boo, hey, come on, I was waiting for you so long. More down. I was waiting for you so long. More down. Shipping is not included. The fuck? $54K is not bad. $25 a month. Suck my dick, bro. Suck my dick. That's what you can do. Fuck off. Why can't you just take me back to number 4? Jalalo. Culo. Meow. I need to check out the. They're having sales on Red Bull, which is good. What is the limit though? 1, 2. It'll be around $30. And I know so yeah, that's doing the on there. Doing that, doing rule. Yeah, no, lives a rule. Kuraleko. Oh, la 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 la. Where's my Venti Crush, bro? There we go. Da 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 da. Formidable. Since we left the zone. This is really good. Oh, Aleko. No. Oh, they're selling it by themselves. It's a product line under Kirkland. Oh, fucking hell, man. Just tell me, innit? I kind of want that product, to be honest. Maybe I can get it from this. إلا أبو علي واللوانة. I'm glad, baby. Okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. Too much tap.
Over 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece, a blind poet known as Homer, along with the most famous authors, playwrights, and historians of their day, would record the tales known to us as Greek mythology. They would speak of the great heroes of the land, the mighty gods of Olympus, and the mortal men and women who were unfortunate enough to get in their way. But who was Zeus, and why did he wage a war against his own father and send a great flood to wipe out humanity? How was mankind created by Prometheus, and why were the horrors of the world unleashed from Pandora's box? What awaited the souls of the dead in the realm of Hades, and how were monsters...
Apparently you can.
I'll give you another one, but let's answer. So let's just finish talking about that. Your question was getting on Get It. Can I submit a Walmart invoice? Yeah, you can try. You can certainly try.
He said you can try.
I can't promise you that would work, but you can try. I would try. I've tried before. I've been successful, and I've failed on brands. Hasbro doesn't accept them. Lego doesn't accept them, but other brands have accepted them. I always use the example of LOL Toys. I submitted a receipt, not an invoice. I did not submit a letter of approval. Got approved. So you got to try. You 100%. You just got to try. At the end of the day, you got to buy 10 of the product or the brand.
That's all you need, bro.
To have an approval if it's approved. I don't know how long it takes. Can take minutes to a day. Could take longer. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another recommendation I have, so if the brand, say, has more expensive products, maybe it's whatever, we'll use LOL, maybe you're looking, okay, the products are a $25 product or it's a $99 product that I want to sell. You don't have to buy the product you want to sell, you just have to buy the brand of...
Facts. There we go. Just have to buy the brand.
Such as the Hydra, the Cyclops and Medusa, slain by famous heroes. From the 12 labors of Hercules to the Trojan War, this is the entire story of Greek mythology. There was only chaos, a great void of emptiness. But from the chaos sprung Gaia Earth, as well as Eros love. They were then joined by night and day, who would put an end to the reign of Erebus, darkness, with the eternal cycle of dusk and dawn emerging. Lastly would come Tartarus, the deepest depths of the world, where condemned souls would be sent for punishment. But these would not be the only primordial beings to emerge. For Gaia would birth one more, Uranus, the sky. The two would then unite and produce 12 children, 6 sons and 6 daughters. These children would be known as the Titans. Among them was Oceanus, a great river that encircled the world. He would be joined by his brother Hyperion, the sun, who would ride his great chariot across the sky, shining light down upon the earth. But when day became night, his daughter Selene, the moon, would emerge, shining her light into the darkness. But Uranus was a cruel father to the Titans, locking his children deep within the earth. To escape, they would look to their mother Gaia, who fashioned an indestructible sickle that she gifted to her youngest and strongest son, Cronus. Cronus would patiently wait, and when Uranus next came to lie with his mother, he would jump out and slice off his father's genitals, which fell into the sea. From them would spawn Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, and the first of a new generation. Having defeated his father Uranus with the sickle, Cronus would take his place as ruler of the world. But his reign was not to last, as Cronus would have 3 sons and 3 daughters with his sister Rhea, with these children becoming known as the gods. Cronus, however, was just as cruel as his own father, and having recently been informed that one of his children was prophesied to overthrow him, would swallow each of them whole as they were born. Only one would escape this horrible fate, with Zeus, the youngest of his children, being saved by his mother Rhea. Not wanting to lose her last child, Rhea would hide Zeus on Mount Ida in Crete and instead feed her husband a rock dressed in infant's clothing, with the Titan consuming it none the wiser. Zeus would be raised by his grandmother Gaia on the island, being hidden away.
What the fuck is Zeus, bro? Let's get case logs. Your case is... Nope. Fuck off. Let's go to Sal University. Price products, send products, manage and promote your product, payment fees, using product, FBA shipment, grow your brand, optimize, sell globally. I want to sell globally though. Selling Japan. How do I go to Amazon Japan? There you go. Oh, I can do that. So let's say I want to sell this one in Japan. For some fucking reason, who knows? Let's go to Burmese product. Royal tea. This in $17. But if I'm sending to Japan, it'll be a lot. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, bro. Amazon. I don't think they have it anymore. Yep. I thought so too. Maybe Thailand. Here we go. Oh, they only have it in these countries, eh? Maybe in Singapore. Let's look at Singapore. These are Singaporean dollars though. You could definitely sell it. they do have these. Currently unavailable. Interesting. I don't think I don't think these are gonna show me international markets. It's worth a try though. I don't think so, you see? Yeah, didn't think so. But it's not showing on Keeper either. Where's Keeper? Let's go back to Japan then. They only have a Japan. Japan. Today's deals. What do they have? Mostly just Japanese stuff. No, motherfucker. God damn it, bro. Like, let me just go to bestseller. If I order from Japan to here, then I can sell it back here. But that shit would take a lot of cost pages, to be honest. Like the masks are popular there, but it's not gonna be popular here, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think this is a waste of time. I'll keep a lookout though. $88 crazy. Also, I can't see more than today. Oh, maybe they delete the chat by just today. Look at this. There's 4,611 members. So let's say, I don't know, 25%. Let's say 50% of them sell. That's 2,305. 2,305 members are selling on Amazon. That's my competition, right? Oh, that's $24,000. Nah, $24,000 is crazy. Oh, but shit, it's fucking selling for a lot though. It's $12 only. Is it 2 packs? Nah, it's just a 1 pack. Bro, what are you doing? It's literally here, bro. Show me the motherfucking shit. Turns out it sells for quite a lot. Sells quickly too. just started, that's why. This could probably get less review. No feedbacks? Only one. Interesting. Muy interesante. This is really good. Like, I mean it, like, really good. I just need to have solid amp on here, that's all. Thank you. 94 a month, which is really good. Herbal accents, I can probably get on gated on that. But can I find out a holy deal? It's a herbal accents, right? What's going on? Alright, bro. Okay, on target, that's tough. Been a long time. Fuck. What's going on? lead your way. Can order 10 of these and I can get ungated for that probably. But does Cole have some?
When we first arrived at St. Jude, it was
Wow, what is wrong with this guy? Look, yes I do, but I'm not gonna share what we have worked years to develop. Fuck you, bro. Then why are you commenting anyway? If you spend some time in the forum, you will see others suggest that you find a niche that you understand and go to the manufacturer and ask if you can sell on Amazon. I also heard that ASD in Las Vegas is a great place to find. What is ASD? ASD Las Vegas. Can be a great place. I never have been and no idea of those websites will be good for selling or not. Also, you can contact your local small business and take some classes, get a mentor to run your business. These guys are fucking gatekeepers, man. Damn. It sounds like you're not prepared for whatever business you're trying to establish at that time. Wow, these guys are trying to tear each other up, man. Damn. That's tough. Hey, you know what, bro? Keep going. Fuck these motherfuckers. Don't listen to them. If you're feeling overwhelmed, keep going. What is wrong with y'all? Anyway, I'm gonna find ASD Las Vegas. Oh, it's this one, eh? August. It's only in Las Vegas.
The Independent Retailer Conference is a pop-up educational experience held on-site at ASD Market Week, held biannually in Las Vegas, and it's a chance for attendees to engage, learn, and connect with industry leaders, where we deliver over 50 sessions over the course of 4 days. So we have people from companies that have included Yelp, SKU IQ, Amazon sellers attorneys. We have so many different leaders that come to our stage. It varies. Amazon sellers attorneys. We have so many different leaders that come to our stage. It varies every single show. And the best part about it is these are people who are genuinely interested in helping attendees better understand their own business and boost their own success. To be a part of the IRC Independent Retailer Conference experience at ASD, you simply need to be registered for ASD Market Week. It's complimentary, it's a free experience. If you're here, you can be a part of it. And again, there's over 50 sessions to experience, so it's a really great opportunity to meet with industry leaders and help your business.
God damn, I need a second monitor. That's all I need, bro. These guys are fucking cutthroat, man.
Welcome to our intro to new seller incentives. In this video, we'll cover the eligibility requirements and perks of the new seller incentives program. Starting your selling journey in the Amazon store, this program can help kickstart your business by investing in your success early on. The new seller incentives program is a curated suite of benefits designed to scale your business, promote your products, and grow your brand. You're eligible to receive new seller incentives if you're registered as a professional seller and launched your first viable product in the US, UK, Germany, Italy, France, Spain, or Japan on or after January 1st, 2022.
Ooh.
You're also eligible for the program if you're an existing seller looking to expand your business to other Amazon stores. For instance, if you're currently only selling your products in the US store, you become eligible for new seller incentives when you list your first viable product in the UK store. The program offers 4 perks tied to the following: Amazon brand registry, fulfillment by Amazon or FBA, coupons, and sponsored products. Let's take a closer look at each. Once you've enrolled in Amazon brand registry, you'll receive a 5% new brand bonus credit on up to $1 million in branded sales, or for the duration of 1 year after you've become eligible for the new brand bonus, whichever comes first. This new brand bonus is applied to your referral fees. For example, let's say you made $500,000 in branded sales in a single month. In this case, you'd be eligible for a bonus credit of $25,000 that will automatically be applied as a discount to the following month's referral fees. With the amount you earned back, you can invest in other growth opportunities for your business. For example, you could use advertising tools to help promote your products and grow your customer audience. You could create deals that help make your products more enticing to customers, or invest in new product opportunities for your brand. With new seller incentives, you'll also receive credits for Amazon Vine once you enroll in the program. You will receive $200 in credits for Vine, our tool to kickstart your product reviews through selected customers enrolled in the program. One of the other perks applies to Fulfillment by Amazon, or FBA. Once joining the new seller incentives program, you'll receive $100 in credits for inventory shipping fees when using the Amazon Partnered Carrier Program, or $200 in credits for fulfillment fees when using Amazon Global Logistics. You'll also be auto-enrolled in the FBA New Selection Program, which offers free monthly storage and return processing for eligible new to FBA ASINs.
Interesting. New seller incentive? I need to improve the... Anyway, I need to send something to my Alex.
the biggest small town festival in Minnesota.
And we came up with the idea of creating a community s'mores table.
find that profitable pallet, but end up finding out you can't sell it on your Amazon account? Well, welcome to Next Deal, Amazon Ungating Services. We're here to help you ungate the brands and categories that you need so you can scale your Amazon business. Very simple. Let's jump straight to the facts here. See that nice shiny form below this video? Go ahead and fill that out with all the information that we're requesting from you. And one of our teammates, either myself or one of my teammates, is going to reach out to you, kind of get a diagnosis of what you're looking to achieve, what your end goals are, because everybody's situation and account is different. So we don't have a one-size-fits-all solution for Ungate. So go ahead to start that button below. I'm sorry, not button, the form below. Go ahead and fill that form, and we'll get talking so we know exactly how to customize a solution for you so you can scale your business to the 6th season.
Let's see how they work.
Welcome and thank you for your interest in nextdeal.com. To create an account, simply click on the register button at the top right corner of website or below for your convenience. Set up your account. You can submit all shipping labels through the website portal. We are able to drop ship in bulk to Amazon and Walmart for you. However, we do not do the FNSKU labeling. If it requires box labels and pallet labels, we can do this for you with no added fees. Be advised, we do not cover any ship labels. We can do this for you with no added fees. Be advised, we do not cover any shipping or custom costs. If you are shipping to yourself after payment has been made, we can get you quote how much it will cost. Next, deal tips. Whenever you visit our site, be sure to check out Deal of the Day, which is updated daily. Be advised, we do not cover any shipping in the inbox section. Bulk to if it
FNSQ. Oh, these are the labels. So I basically need to ship it to myself. That's all you need. That's all I need to do. They don't handle the prep and shit. For the rest, they can pretty much do anything. This is not a bad idea, to be honest. It's not a bad idea. Okay, I'm pretty much done for the something. I want to watch something. I can't believe you, Stacy, bro. Why are you still watching?
Great pupils are Plato, St. Augustine, Schopenhauer, and Nietzsche. And if not quite in their class, Descartes, Pascal, Berkeley, Hume, Rousseau were certainly very good writers anyway. And in our own time, Bertrand Russell and Jean-Paul Sartre have both been awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. But on the other hand, some great philosophers have been bad writers, two of the very greatest, Kant and Aristotle, being two of the worst. Quite a few are just pedestrian. One thinks, for instance, of Aquinas or Locke. As for Hegel, his work has become a byword for obscurity, almost a joke in this respect. He must be the most difficult to read of all world-famous writers. What these examples show is that philosophy as such is not a branch of literature. If a philosopher writes well, it's little more than a bonus. It makes him more enticing to study, obviously, but it does nothing to make him a better philosopher. A philosopher can be in the very highest rank of all, like Kant, and still be a lousy writer. I state this firmly at the outset because in this program we're going to consider some of the areas where philosophy and literature do overlap, not only in the work of philosophers who happen to be great writers, but also in the work of other kinds of writer, poets, playwrights, novelists, who have been directly influenced by philosophical ideas. We have someone here whose experience spans both these worlds. Iris Murdoch is now a novelist of international reputation, but for many years before she became a successful novelist, and indeed for some years after, she was a tutor in philosophy at Oxford University. Iris Murdoch, when you're writing a novel on the one hand and philosophy on the other, are you actually conscious that you're engaged in two radically different kinds of writing? Are you conscious that you're writing differently?
Oh, very much so, yes. These two branches of thought have such different aims and such different styles, and I feel very strongly that one should keep them apart from each other. I mean, that is that when one's writing philosophy, one's writing something which is very much more like science in a way than it's like literature. And literature, of course, has its own rules and its own tricks, and philosophy aims to clarify. In fact, it's essential to philosophy that should be, in some sense, clarification, and literature is very often mystification, and besides, literature is for fun, literature entertains, literature does many, many things, and philosophy does one thing.
Seems to me, having read many of your books, including your philosophical books, that the actual sentences themselves are different. I mean, what strikes me if I read one of your novels, the sentences are, so to speak, opaque in the sense that there's a lot in them. There's a heavy cargo. There's lots of connotation and allusion and ambiguity and so on. Whereas in your philosophical writing, the sentences are translucent. They're only saying one thing at a time.
Yes, well, I hope this is so, yes. I mean, if obviously one has a style as a writer, and I certainly have a probably recognizable style as a novelist, but my philosophical style would be something totally different, and I would be very pleased if it was impossible to tell it was the same person writing.
You said something a moment ago that interested me very much. You said that philosophy, I think I remembered your words correctly, you said philosophy, the aim of philosophy is to clarify, and the aim of literature is to mystify. And I suppose it's central to what the novelist or the playwright is doing, that he's actually trying to create an illusion, whereas it's central to what the philosopher is doing, that he's trying to dispel illusion or pierce through illusion or liberate his and our minds from illusion. Is that an essential part of the difference?
Yes, certainly. And philosophy is to do with getting hold of a problem and holding on to it relentlessly and doggedly. And this is the mark of a philosophical mind, this particular relentlessness, the fact that you stick to your problem.
Yeah. With the making of the contrast in mind, let's deal with these one at a time. I mean, how would you characterize literature as distinct from philosophy in this context?
Well, I don't think one can offer exactly a definition of literature, nor is it necessary in place here.
We know some of the characteristics.
We know what literature is. It's an art form using words, and I would say that literature is art by definition, on the point at which, I mean, one could define it by contrasting it with, say, journalism or something. I dare say great journalism is literature, but there are all sorts of borderlines here. And literature is very, very various. And one thing that strikes one, of course, is that philosophy is very tiny. If you think how small European philosophy is, and
but just the small body of work.
Yes, I mean, it's not a vast and multifarious area. No. What strikes one very much, I think, is the way in which the problems which were stated at the beginning are still there. which some people might regard as a proof that one is not making much progress.
Well, the philosopher Whitehead once characterized this rather strikingly, didn't he, by saying that all Western philosophy is merely footnotes to Plato.
Yes.
And there's a sense in which that is true. I mean, Plato mapped out the territory, and we've all been working in it ever since.
I think the more one studies Plato, the more one sees that this is true, that he raised practically every problem and raised it in a very sophisticated way. Well, literature is vast and multifarious and multiform. It's not, of course, entirely to do with fictions. I mean, there are kinds of literature which aren't fiction, but...
historical writing and essays.
Reflections of all kinds. But typical literatures, I mean, stories and poems and so on, is fictional. It is to do partly with playing roles. That this is true to some extent of poetry, and I suppose entirely, almost entirely, perhaps one should say, true of the novel, that it's to do with masks and roles and pretending and imagining in that sense, and storytelling. And in this sense, I think literature is very natural. It's very close to ordinary life, and it's.
We all tell stories.
We all tell stories. Yes, I think
our ordinary lives.
This is the most natural thing in the world. Telling stories. I mean, one is doing it all the time, possibly without noticing it. If one describes one's day, as it were, one is shaping one's material into a story form. Very often, it's a funny story, incidentally, which I think is a very important fact.
Yes, there aren't many jokes in philosophy.
No, there are witticisms, but not exactly jokes. Yeah, I think jokes would be out of place. And that somehow we live in a literary atmosphere. I mean, we live and breathe literature to some extent, in that when we tell stories or when we write letters and so on, we are making a form out of something which might be formless. And this is one of course, the deep motives for literature or for art of any sort, that one is defeating the formlessness of the world.
One is imposing order on one's
Yes, one is cheering oneself up
environment.
and consoling oneself, and also, of course, instructing oneself by giving a form to something which is perhaps alarmingly formless in its original condition, a sort of rubble, as if we lived in a kind of rubble world, and one's always making forms.
Yes. When you say one's cheering oneself up, I mean, that brings to the fore the fact that one of the essential aims of literature has always been to entertain, hasn't it?
Yes.
And I don't think that has anything whatever to do with the motive of philosophy.
No. I think it may be that philosophy also cheers us up, of course, because philosophy is the imposition of form on the formless in a vast way. But I think this is something which, insofar as the philosopher might be aware of this, it's something that he would be suspicious of in himself, because one's temptation to produce a hasty form or an inappropriate form in order to console oneself. This temptation is one that the philosopher, of course, has to avoid, and I think the good philosopher is always undoing his own work. This is part of the holding on to the problem, being dogged and relentless, which would also, of course, militate against certain kinds of literary devices, because it means that one has to repeat oneself, that philosophy is repetitive, it's coming back over the same ground and breaking the form that you've made. And
you've made a number of points here, especially in your characterization of literature, which by implication contrast with philosophy, but I'd like now to, as it were, draw out the contrasts explicitly. For example, you said just now that, and I think it's a striking fact about storytelling, you said that it's natural and that we all do it and it's part of everyday life, and certainly we all like being told stories. Whereas I suppose by contrast, philosophy is, as it were, counter-natural. I mean, philosophy involves essentially the critical analysis of one's beliefs and the presuppositions of one's beliefs. And it's very striking that people actually don't like having that done to them. None of us do. We don't like being analysed, and we don't like the assumptions on which our beliefs rest being questioned, because it makes us feel insecure and uncomfortable, and we all have a strong resistance to doing it.
Yes, I think it is a very counter-natural, a very unnatural activity. And when one starts doing philosophy, I mean, I notice this, of course, in teaching philosophy, that people are very reluctant to play this game, or cannot see how it's done at all to begin with, because it involves a very odd sort of standpoint. It's notoriously difficult to define philosophy, of course. If somebody doesn't know what this activity is, it's very difficult to say what it is. It's to do with conceptual structures, to do with very deep structures of belief and knowledge, to do with meaning, significance. It's partly, of course, to do with words, in the sense that it's about how language relates to the world and that sort of thing. And it's not science, and it's not art, and it's very important that it's not science, I think, don't you think? I mean, that as soon as you start doing science, you're falling right out of philosophy. It's a kind of point of view which, although the style may be scientific, the actual, what you're doing is certainly not science. It's a kind of a reflection on concepts.
Yes, well, Bertrand Russell once said that it's the questions that we don't know how to answer, and I think Isaiah Berlin and other well-known contemporary philosophers also take this view.
And it means looking at things which one takes for granted and suddenly seeing that they're very, very odd indeed.
Yes. But the one thing that philosophy does have in common with science, I think, is that it's based on an attempt to understand the world and to understand our environment and to understand our situation in a way that doesn't consist just of expressing personal attitudes and personal views. There is an attempt to, as it were, submit oneself, and this was implicit in something you said just now, I think, to submit oneself to criteria outside oneself. In other words, you're trying to say something that is impersonally true.
Yes, yes.
And you said just now, I think when you were talking about the way you yourself write, you said that, and it's absolutely true, that your novel writing has a very distinctive literary personality, whereas I think, having read many of your books, including your philosophical books, that the actual sentences themselves are different. I mean, what strikes me if I read one of your novels, the sentences are... so to speak, opaque in the sense that there's a lot in them. There's a heavy cargo. There's lots of connotation and allusion and ambiguity and so on. Whereas in your philosophical writing, the sentences are translucent. They're only saying one thing at a time.
Yes, well, I hope this is so, yes. I mean, if obviously one has a style as a writer, and I certainly have a probably recognizable style as a novelist, but my philosophical style would be something totally different, and I would be very pleased if it was impossible to tell it was the same person writing.
You said something a moment ago that interested me very much. You said that philosophy, I think I remembered your words correctly, you said philosophy, the aim of philosophy is to clarify, and the aim of literature is to mystify. And I suppose it's central to what the novelist or the playwright is doing, that he's actually trying to create an illusion, whereas it's central to what the philosopher is doing, that he's trying to dispel illusion or pierce through illusion or liberate his and our minds from illusion. Is that an essential part of the difference?
Yes, certainly. And philosophy is to do with getting hold of a problem and holding on to it relentlessly and doggedly. And this is the mark of a philosophical mind, this particular relentlessness, the fact that you stick to your problem.
Yeah. With the making of the contrast in mind, let's deal with these one at a time. I mean, how would you characterize literature as distinct from philosophy in this context?
Well, I don't think one can offer exactly a definition of literature, nor is it necessary in place here.
We know some of the characteristics.
We know what literature is. It's an art form using words, and I would say that literature is art by definition, on the point at which, I mean, one could define it by contrasting it with, say, journalism or something. I dare say great journalism is literature, but there are all sorts of borderlines here. And literature is very, very various. And one thing that strikes one, of course, is that philosophy is very tiny. If you think how small European philosophy is, and
but just a small body of work.
Yes, I mean, it's not a vast and multifarious area. No. What strikes one very much, I think, is the way in which the problems which were stated at the beginning are still there, which some people might regard as proof that one is not making much progress.
Well, the philosopher Whitehead once characterized this rather strikingly, didn't he, by saying that all Western philosophy is merely footnotes to Plato.
Yes.
And there's a sense in which that is true. I mean, Plato mapped out the territory, and we've all been working in it ever since.
I think the more one studies Plato, the more one sees that this is true, that he raised practically every problem and raised it in a very sophisticated way. Well, literature is vast and multifarious and multiform. It's not, of course, entirely to do with fictions. I mean, there are kinds of literature which aren't fiction, but
historical writing,
yes,
essays,
reflections of all kinds. Yes. But typical literature, as it were, I mean, stories and poems and so on, is fictional. It is to do partly with playing roles. That this is true to some extent of poetry, and I suppose entirely, almost entirely, perhaps one should say, true of the novel, that it's to do with masks and roles and pretending and imagining in that sense, and storytelling. And in this sense, I think literature is very natural. It's very close to ordinary life, and it's.
We all tell stories.
We all tell stories. Yes, I think this is the most natural thing in the world. Telling stories. I mean, one is doing it all the time, possibly without noticing it. If one describes one's day, as it were, one is shaping one's material into a story form. Very often, it's a funny story, incidentally, which I think is a very important fact.
There aren't many jokes in philosophy.
No, there are witticisms, but not exactly jokes. Yeah, I think jokes would be out of place. And that somehow we live in a literary atmosphere. I mean, we live and breathe literature to some extent, in that when we tell stories or when we write letters and so on, we are making a form out of something which might be formless. And this is one of course, the deep motives for literature or for art of any sort. That one is defeating the formlessness of the world.
One is imposing order on one's
Yes, one is cheering oneself up and consoling oneself, and also, of course, instructing oneself by giving a form to something which is perhaps alarmingly formless in its original condition, a sort of rubble, as if we lived in a kind of rubble world, and one's always making forms.
Yes. When you say one's cheering oneself up, I mean, that brings to the fore the fact that one of the essential aims of literature has always been to entertain.
Yes.
And I don't think that has anything whatever to do with the motive of philosophy.
No. I think it may be that philosophy also cheers us up, of course, because philosophy is the imposition of form on the formless in a vast way. But I think this is something which, insofar as the philosopher might be aware of this, it's something that he would be suspicious of in himself, because one's temptation to produce a hasty form or an inappropriate form in order to console oneself. This temptation is one that the philosopher, of course, has to avoid, and I think the good philosopher is always undoing his own work. This is part of the holding on to the problem, being dogged and relentless, which would also, of course, militate against certain kinds of literary devices, because it means that one has to repeat oneself, that philosophy is is repetitive. It's coming back over the same ground and breaking the form that you've made. And
you've made a number of points here, especially in your characterization of literature, which by implication contrast with philosophy. But I'd like now to, as it were, draw out the contrasts explicitly. For example, you said just now that, and I think it's a striking fact about storytelling, you said that it's natural, and that we all do it, and it's part of everyday life, and certainly we all like being told stories. Whereas I suppose by contrast, philosophy is, as it were, counter-natural. I mean, philosophy involves essentially the critical analysis of one's beliefs and the presuppositions of one's beliefs. And it's very striking that people actually don't like having that done to them. None of us do. We don't like being analysed, and we don't like the assumptions on which our beliefs rest being questioned, because it makes us feel insecure and uncomfortable, and we all have a strong resistance to doing it.
Yes, I think it is a very counter-natural, a very unnatural activity. And when one starts doing philosophy, I mean, I notice this, of course, in teaching philosophy, that people are very reluctant to play this game, or cannot see how it's done at all to begin with, because it involves a very odd sort of standpoint. It's notoriously difficult to define philosophy, of course. If somebody doesn't know what this activity is, it's very difficult to say what it is. It's to do with conceptual structures, to do with very deep structures of belief and knowledge, to do with meaning, significance. It's partly, of course, to do with words, in the sense that it's about how language relates to the world and that sort of thing. And it's not science, and it's not art, and it's very important that it's not science, I think, don't you think? I mean, that as soon as you start doing science, you're falling right out of philosophy. It's a kind of point of view which, although the style may be scientific, the actual, what you're doing is certainly not science. It's a kind of a reflection on concepts.
Yes, well, Bertrand Russell once said that it's the questions that we don't know how to answer, and I think Isaiah Berlin and other well-known contemporary philosophers also take this view.
And it means looking at things which one takes for granted and suddenly seeing that they're very, very odd indeed.
Yes. But the one thing that philosophy does have in common with science, I think, is that it's based on an attempt to understand the world and to understand our environment and to understand our situation in a way that doesn't consist just of expressing personal attitudes and personal views. There is an attempt to, as it were, submit oneself, and this was implicit in something you said just now, I think, to submit oneself to criteria outside oneself. In other words, you're trying to say something that is impersonally true.
Yes, yes.
And you said just now, I think, when you were talking about the way you yourself write, you said that, and it's absolutely true, that your novel writing has a very distinctive literary personality, whereas I think you said you wouldn't mind if your philosophical writing was thought not to have any personality. Now, it strikes me that almost the most important thing about an imaginative or creative writer is this possession of a literary personality. If he hasn't got a distinctive personality in that sense, we're not interested in reading it. Whereas with philosophers, it just isn't the case. I mean, you could read all the works of Kant with great care and interest, and at the end of it have no idea what Kant was like as a human being.
Yes, of course, literature is various in this respect, isn't it? That some people have a distinctive style, other people don't. I suppose it is self-expression in a way by definition. I mean, that unless you wanted to express yourself, if you didn't have this motive, you'd lack a very important motive towards this form of art. Whereas philosophy is certainly not self-expression. And philosophy, of course, is argument. And you can say, well, is the conclusion true, or is the argument valid?
I found, when talking to friends of mine who may be very intelligent and very well educated but don't know much about philosophy, I find they often express the assumption that philosophy is a branch of literature, that a philosopher is somehow expressing a personal view of the world in the way that a poet might be or a novelist might be. And it's not always easy to explain briefly why this is not so. I suppose it's partly because these problems, philosophical problems, have histories. And each individual philosopher comes on the scene at some stage in that developing history And if he makes a contribution at all, it's rather like the scientist. He makes it at that stage. Otherwise, there isn't one to be made, so to speak.
Yes, philosophy. Philosophy is the history of philosophy in the sense that there is a development in the problems, and philosophy lives on philosophy very much more than art lives on art.
Yes. And I think the writing of art, the writing of novels and poems, engages very much more of the personality, both of the writer and the reader, actually, than philosophy does. Philosophy is a much more narrowly intellectual activity. In fact, I'd go farther. I'd say that literature, to be literature at all, must move one emotionally, whereas the philosopher, like the scientist, is actually trying to exclude emotional appeal, isn't he? From his work.
Yes, I mean, literature could be said to be a sort of disciplined technique for arousing certain emotions. That's certainly one of its one of the reasons why one enjoys it, and one of the reasons perhaps why it's both good for us when it's good and bad for us when it's bad.
Well, we've been talking about the differences, and I think it's very important that we should stress these differences. But there are also some things in common, aren't there? I mean, I know from previous conversations with you, for example, that you think that some notion of truth, though they may be different notions of truth, are very near the centre of both.
Yes. I certainly hold a particular view on the subject of what art is like and what literature is like, and this view, which wouldn't be shared by everybody by any means, would assimilate philosophy and literature just in that way. That is, I think that this may be perhaps the only important thing they have in common, but it is important that they're both connected with truth, that they're truth-seeking, truth-revealing activities in some sense, and they're both, it's always illuminating in a particular thought form to say, well, how is it criticized? What kind of critical vocabulary is directed against it? And I think that the question of truthfulness comes into criticism of literature as well as criticism of philosophy.
Could you say a little more about this? Because I think this is particularly interesting.
If one thinks of the kinds of things that we say about literature from a critical point of view, we often condemn it for being sentimental or for being fantastic in a bad sense. Let's establish, say, a contrast between imagination and fantasy, with imagination being thought of as a good creative power, and fantasy as a sort of private self-consolation, so that fantasy is bad, imagination is good. I think both philosopher and writer have to face a conflict between imagination and fantasy in themselves. That, of course, philosophy is an imaginative activity, and if one thinks of the great philosophers, they're very often picture makers. They're people who produce enormous metaphors and pictures to explain things. And the intrusion of any kind of personal fantasy is obviously out of place there. But I think it's an even greater a conflict for the writer, because creative imagination and personal fantasy are awfully close in relation to fiction. The obvious sort of example is the case of the novel, the bad novel, which turns out to be simply a fantasy of how the hero, who's the writer, triumphs over all his enemies, and is loved by the girls, and so on, yes, and becomes rich, and so forth. And this kind of fantasy is a menace to the creative imagination. And in condemning art for being fantastic in this sense, one's very close to saying that it's untrue, that it's saying something which isn't true.
Now, that conception of truth there is different, isn't it, from what the philosopher is trying to get at, is it not?
Well, the philosopher is dealing with truth in a kind of positive sense, in that he's trying to solve certain problems finally. Whether he ever does is another question, but I think there are certain philosophical problems, for instance, about perception, which perhaps have been solved. The writer has a whole lot of aims. I mean, this is what, of course, makes art so interesting, that it satisfies a great many human activities and instincts. It produces happiness in the creator and in the client through doing a whole lot of things at the same time. But one of the things it does, and this is, I think, is important and comes up in philosophical theories about art, which perhaps we might consider in a minute. There is, I think, a mimetic aspect.
What do you mean by mimetic?
That is, that it is imitation of nature, in some sense, that literature is about the world. This might seem to be obvious, but of course it isn't obvious, in the sense that a lot of people would challenge this remark and say that literary art is not mimetic. The same kind of question, of course, can be asked about painting. Music is an odd man out, I think, in this particular discussion. But I think that there are many parallels between painting and literature, and these are sometimes illuminating. You can see something more clearly, perhaps, in the case of painting, which you then can transfer, as it were, to the case of literature.
You suggested just now that we move on to considering philosophical ideas about literature, and I think it would be very interesting to do that. Which of the philosophical views of art that there have been would you pick out as being the most interesting to consider?
I find Plato's very interesting because it praises all the subjects which one wants to clarify one's mind about, and one wants to defend art. I don't know. I think philosophers haven't written very well on art, on the whole, partly because they very often put it in as a minor issue. They've got a general view, say, of morals or metaphysics and so on, and they put in their view of art as a kind of piece that's got to be fitted into the picture, and they don't perhaps consider it too seriously or too generously, or not generously enough.
There is, if I could chip in there is one philosopher whom I would exempt from that charge. I agree that is generally true, but I think Schopenhauer is an exception. I think he is genuinely deep on the subject of art. He, unlike nearly all other philosophers, he did regard art as being central to human life and had some very profound things to say about it.
Yes, this is perfectly true. Yes, I agree with you here. Yes, I think that Kant is very interesting about art. I think his distinction between the sublime and the beautiful. Beautiful is purely formal. The sublime is to do with a kind of moral appeal to the emotions, which actually he didn't think of as being art at all. But that distinction, I think, in itself is very informative. But on the whole, philosophers have tended to be polemical about art in a rather fruitless way. I mean, they've tended to produce, and of course any discussion about art tends endlessly to produce again and again a certain sort of either-ors about art, that art's got to be one thing or the other.
Yes, I think this is the trouble with any philosophy of art, isn't it? That it's exclusive. I mean, once you think that all art has got to be of a certain kind to fit in with your particular theory, then it follows from that everything that doesn't fit in with that theory isn't art.
Yes, I think this, fortunately, artists don't pay too much attention to philosophers. They just carry on. But I think philosophy can be damaging to art in the sense. I think the people it damages, of course, are students who long to have theories. I mean, one sees this very often, that young people long to feel that art, too, can be explained, or the aim of art can be explained. I mean, there's these very familiar sorts of fights, or either-ors, that should art be for art's sake, or should it be for society's sake? And this, this is quite interesting, too, because, again, if one's instincts are to reject this choice, which mine are, then to say exactly why can be quite informative.
We've been talking up to this point about philosophy and literature, or philosophical ideas about literature. Let's move on now to philosophy in literature. literature. Let me say what I mean by that. First of all, there have been some famous philosophers or thinkers very like philosophers, like Voltaire, who've also been major novelists. I mean, not only Voltaire, but Rousseau, in our own time, Jean-Paul Sartre. Or among simply famous novelists, there are some who've been obviously very profoundly influenced by certain rather philosophical ideas. I mean, Tolstoy appends to his novel War and Peace a great long epilogue in which he explains that in this novel he's been trying to express a certain philosophy of history. Or if you take another famous Russian novelist, Dostoevsky, he's often described by existentialists as the greatest of all existentialist writers because he's involved in certain kinds of problem that they themselves are also concerned with. Or one can think of a very large number of examples, can't one? I mean, it's obvious that Proust in À la recherche du temps perdu is deeply concerned with problems about time, which is also one of the traditional problems that philosophers have been concerned with, and so on. What I would like to get at in the form of a question to you is, what sort of role do you think that philosophy can play in literature? Let us take novels, for example.
Well, I think it had better keep out on the whole. I think that people say these things about writers like Tolstoy and Dostoevsky in order to have something interesting to say about them, as it were. I mean, obviously, writers are influenced by the climate of ideas of their time, and they're likely to be educated people who know a little bit about philosophical change and so forth. But the amount of philosophy they succeed in expressing in the book is very small, really. I think as soon as philosophy gets into a novel, work of literature, it ceases to be philosophy. It becomes something else. It becomes a plaything of the writer, and quite rightly. I mean, a pure novel of ideas. I mean, I don't know that it's very likely that it will. The harder the writer works to present his ideas, the less good his work of art is likely to become. I think it's a very dangerous activity. I think that, again, you see the great 19th century writers get away with quite a lot of idea play in their writings, but if you look at it, you couldn't possibly regard it as philosophy. It's idea play.
Well, I wonder if I agree with you. I mean, you say that people say this kind of thing about philosophers in order to have something interesting to say. Well, no doubt there is a lot of pseudo talk about novels of this kind. But I did mention, for example, that Tolstoy himself says in War and Peace that this is one of the things he's trying to do. Or take a major English novel like Laurence Sterne's Tristram Shandy. I mean, not only was that directly influenced by Locke's theories about the association of ideas, but there's quite a bit about that in the novel, and in terms which obviously refer to the novel itself. In other words, Sterne was quite clearly doing something which he himself related to Locke's theory of the association of ideas. So I think there are, in fact, a number of instances of great novels, I mean, really outstanding novels, where the use of philosophical ideas is part of the structure, is part of what it's about.
Yes, all right. Yes, perhaps it's just that I feel in myself such an absolute horror of putting theories as such into a book. I mean, certain philosophical ideas might, I perhaps put things about philosophy into my novels because I happen to know about philosophy. I mean, if I knew about sailing ships, I'd put sailing ships in. If I knew about hospitals, I'd put hospitals in. And in a way, as a novelist, I'd rather know about sailing ships and hospitals than about philosophy. But I don't think that the writer necessarily knows.
In fact, you think it's just material?
Well, I think, Tolstoy says this, but I don't. Why should we attend to him? We read his books, don't trust the writer, trust the tale. One has to see what he's actually achieved. And I think that, I can only think of one really good philosophical novel, which is Sartre's La Nausée, which I do admire very much, which might be said to be a philosophical novel, which is demonstrating something about contingency. It's interestingly, it's a philosophical subject which is very close to the novelist's art. I mean, there's a kind of a good marriage there, as it were, between the novelist's art and the subject.
Well, let's take that, shall we? Jean-Paul Sartre's La Nausée. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a magnificent book, but surely it also articulates a philosophical theory. In fact, my introduction to existentialism, so to speak, was reading that novel, and I thought that novel actually expressed an existentialist view, and it's rather marvelous. I mean, in the form of a work of fiction. It may well be, as you say, unique, but the fact that it exists at all shows that it can be done, doesn't it?
Yes. You seem to be driving me to say something.
I know.
To say.
Yes, I think there's a genuine difference of opinion between you and me,
yes.
Which we simply may not be able to resolve in this discussion. But you, it seems to me, are trying to say that philosophy as such has no place in imaginative writing, except insofar as it can simply be material, like anything else can be material. Whereas I think I want to say that there are really a number of exceptions to this, and that some major novels do make use of philosophical ideas, not just as material in that sense, but in ways which inform the book.
Yes, I mean, this is perhaps just a matter of degree. Obviously, there are things to do with the ideas current at the time, climate of ideas and so on, which give a certain flavour to novels written at a certain time, and incidentally, which make it possible to write in one way at one time and impossible to write in that way at another time. But I think one speaking rather loosely, I think existentialism may be something of a special case here, because it is a rather literary philosophy. It emphasizes all sorts of things to do with the human predicament. And Sartre's marvelous philosophical work, L'Être et le Néant, is sort of full of pictures and conversations, as it were. It's true of Hegel, too, actually, that there's an awful lot of amusement and literary stuff, as it were, in both Hegel and in Sartre. And this is interesting. This is something to do with the rather dramatic form of the thought in the philosophy itself, that there's some kind of drama which can be exhibited. There's some kind of feeling about the world which belongs both to the philosophy and to the novel. But one can see that it's not easy from looking at other works by Sartre and by Simone de Beauvoir, where as soon as the existentialist voice comes in, the work of art is rigidified. Yes, I think it was just a lucky chance that he managed to pull it off in La Nausée.
Yes. Well, I think given what you've now just said, I think perhaps we're not so far apart as I thought. Let me raise another kind of question with you, which again, you as a practitioner of both philosophy and novel writing are almost uniquely well placed to answer. One of the outstanding features of philosophy in the 20th century, especially in the Anglo-Saxon world, has been a completely new kind of concern with language, hasn't it? And self-consciousness about language. And this has resulted, among other things, in a sort of very refined and scrupulous use of words and concepts and so on. Do you think that, I mean, in the case of somebody like yourself who trained as a philosopher and then became a novelist, do you think that has in any way entered into the way you write novels or affected the way you write novels?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I recognize what you mean about this particular instance of language, and this, of course, I mean, the formalists are quite right to suggest that that things have changed. I mean, this, of course, is something which every writer knows instinctively.
Yes. You can no longer write like the 19th century novelists.
No, and of course we're not so good. We're not anything like as good as the great 19th century novelists. But also we write differently, and we would find it difficult to write as they did without an element of pastiche being involved. Though I think some writers would actually regard this as kind of challenge.
Why can't you write in the way that...
Well, this is a very interesting question. I don't know. I mean, I can't exactly answer that question. I mean, the obvious differences one has in mind here, of course, have things to do with the standpoint of the writer and the sense in which the way in which he inhabits the consciousness of his characters, his relation to his characters in this sense. I think, I mean, perhaps something one might say in a minute is that, of course, the author's relation to his characters reveals a great deal about the author's moral standpoint anyway. But this is a technical point, really, about the author's relation to his characters, that now, unless he's playing some kind of game, and of course the formalist would say he's always playing game, and the more games he plays, the better. But I would say, unless he's playing some kind of game, he will instinctively express himself in a way which is different, that he will inhabit the consciousness of his characters in an absolute sense. He won't describe them from the outside. He'll describe them through consciousness, or if he suddenly describes them from the outside, this will be an obvious literary device which will hang up the reader for a moment.
Well, we're approaching the end of this discussion, and just now, a moment ago, you did say that you would like to take up the question of what the author reveals about his moral presuppositions. So can we perhaps end with that? What is it that you would like to say on that question?
Well, this would be part and parcel of my view of literature, and indeed my view of art, which is that people sometimes say you must regard art and literature as being either the production of autonomous objects or a reflection of the world. I mean, I think it's both, and this seems to me to be obvious, that it is both almost always, in some sense, a reflection of the world, perhaps not absolutely always, but almost always, and quite properly so, a reflection of the world, and it's also the production of a formal object. I mean, one wouldn't call it a work of art unless it had certain formal properties and a certain kind of, appropriate to the subject matter, autonomy. Therefore, I would say art is mimetic. It is, language is referential. Language does refer to the world. And in pursuing this particular activity of producing literary work, particularly, of course, fictions, and particularly, of course, the novel is the most obvious case, one is inevitably involved in making moral judgments. And this is something to do with the nature of language, that if you tell somebody to describe their room or something, which one might think was a fairly neutral activity, this description will be crammed with value judgments. And this is something which one can't avoid, not only in the choice of what they describe, which is important, but in the words that they use. Words are full of value. And this is very obviously the case, of course, in the author's relation to his characters. And this comes back partly to this distinction between fantasy and imagination, that if the relation is a fantasy relationship, the work is damaged, both because the expansion, the ability to exhibit the world in some way under a certain light is damaged, and very often, of course, the values which the author expresses are improper ones. And I think that the novelist may as well admit this, that he is going to be involved in making moral judgments, and his relationship to his characters is going to reveal his morality. So that there is a kind of moral challenge involved in art, both because of at a prior stage, in the self-discipline of the artist, expelling fantasy and looking at things other than himself, which I think art is very much concerned with, removing a veil of fantasy, which normally perhaps wraps one's head as one gazes at the world, and looking at the world without this fantastic cover, that the artist is concerned to see what is other than himself, and in a sense to respect it, and to have the self-discipline to check the rushes of fantasy to which he may be subject. This is the work of imagination then creates a kind of space, and one does have a kind of feeling of imaginative space in great works of art, as if one was standing in a big hall or something. At the prior level, he has to do this, and at a secondary level, when he's actually creating the work, he will find that he has to judge his characters and he has a way to take sides. And this can be done, of course, in many, many ways. And, of course, ambiguity and mystification and so on come into this. And the...
အားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့မြန်မာ book review ရဲ့ episode 1ကနေစတင်ကြိုဆိုပါရစေအဲ့တော့ဒီမြန်မာ book review series တွေကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ဘာအတွက်လုပ်ထားလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာရှိတဲ့စာအုပ်ချစ်သူစာချစ်သူပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်မိတ်ဆွေများဘာညာအဲ့ဒီနဲ့လေချိန်စပြီးတော့လုပ်လို့ရကိုယ့်ရဲ့ပါဝါကိုညှင့်တင်မယ်ဒါမျိုးနေရာတွေမှာဒီဟာရဲ့လူကကိုယ့်ဒုက္ခမပေးတော့ပါဘူးဆိုတော့တက်တည်ပြချင်လာပြီဆိုရင်သူ့ကိုခိုင်းရတာပူကောင်းတယ်လေတကယ်
Bidu caminha. Bidu caminha. Bidu caminha.
ဆရာစောကြီးအထုပ်ပတ်တီအကျဉ်1900ခု1990 1900ခုဖျာပုံမြို့အင်္ဂလိပ်မြန်မာအစိုးရထပ်တန်းကျောင်းတို့တွင်တတ္တမရန်ထိပညာသင်ကြားခဲ့သည်1920
Bleed တို့ရဲ့နီးတယ်
author, who of course is enjoying himself all the time.
Call themselves followers of Karl Marx and live in countries which are Marxist. But less than 100 years ago, of Western philosophy despised democracy as a form of government. It is not hard to understand why, knowing what we do about what had happened during the war to Athenian democracy and to the noble and wealthy class to which Plato belonged. Athenian democracy had sunk into moral corruption, into muddle-headed confusion and disorganization. And as for the wealthy classes, they had supported the democracy. They had paid for the war effort, and now they saw themselves financially wiped out because of the democratic government's bungling of the war. After the death of Socrates, Plato was more than ever convinced that a democratic state, a state ruled by the many, is doomed to disaster. Because, he believed, the many can never know what is good for the state, and for these reasons. The many lack the necessary level of intelligence and training. They are concerned only with their own immediate pleasures and gratifications, and they are ruled by unstable, volatile emotions which render them easy prey to clever demagogues or to mob passions. Plato believed that such a government, a democratic government run by the many, cannot produce good human beings, and in turn he believed that good people would find life impossible under a democratic government. Do Plato's attacks upon democratically governed cities make you uncomfortable? Is he touching a raw nerve? What about your own city and its democratic government? Or what about the democratic government of the United States? 2,400 years ago, did Plato tell it like it is? Having arrived at these conclusions about democracy, Plato withdrew from the public life of Athens. He saw that the real challenge was to philosophy, to provide a true definition of justice, a philosophy of a just and good society, and a theory of the best form of government for such a society. And so he came to pin his hopes on the possibility of a society governed by a philosopher king who would have knowledge of true justice and the best form of government. Plato developed the theory that not until philosophers became kings, or kings became philosophers, with the same person uniting within himself knowledge and power, would a society based upon justice be possible. In order to accomplish this goal, Plato saw his own task as the development of a true philosophy and the education of potential philosopher kings in his academy. In pursuing these goals, Plato takes it to be his mission in life to carry on the philosophic work of Socrates. From the point of view of their respective personalities, this was a strange alliance. Plato, the aristocrat, quiet, reserved, aloof from the democratic scene at Athens, cold, a literary artist as well as a philosopher, using philosophy to serve the ideals of excellence of his social class. And on the other hand, Socrates, middle class in origin, gregarious, a mixer with all types and classes in the city, short and stocky of build, pudgy and ugly of face, with bulging eyes and broad nostrils. But his intellectual brilliance, his wit and good humor, were able, nevertheless, to win the love of any young man of Athens who happened to strike his homosexual fancy. All of Plato's philosophic writing was done in the form of dialogues, conversations, in which almost always the principal speaker is Socrates. These are the first philosophical dialogues of the Western world. So far as we know, Plato himself invented the dialogue as a literary form. Most of the dialogues use the philosophic method which Socrates invented, the Socratic method, sometimes called the method of dialectic, sometimes called the elenchus, which means boxing in. It is a form of seeking knowledge by question and answer. Socrates opens up a conversation with someone, and catching him off guard, puts a question to him about his work or his main interests. Usually it is a general question of the form, what is courage? What is piety? What is justice? This forces the respondent to answer with a definition. For example, justice is paying your debts. Socrates then proceeds to refute each definition by offering a counter-example designed to show that the definition which was offered is too narrow, too limited, or that it is biased or uninformed. You can see the Socratic method beautifully at work in Book 1 of the Republic. Socrates asks Cephalus, a wealthy and honorable old merchant, what is justice? Cephalus replies from the point of view of the ethics of a businessman. Justice is speaking the truth and paying one's debts. But Socrates replies with a counterexample. Sometimes paying one's debts may be unjust. For example, when you owe a friend a weapon, but since then he has become insane, would it not be unjust to return it to him? Cephalus agrees. His own definition is demolished. A new and larger definition must be constructed to cover this type of case. A definition must be able to cover all examples. A definition must state what all the cases, all the examples, instances, particulars have in common, as examples of courage or justice, etc. Socrates believed that by this Socratic method, in which each succeeding question corrects what was wrong with the previous definition, that finally a true definition could be coaxed out of anyone. He saw himself as a midwife, helping with the birth of a baby, the true definition, coming out of the mind of the respondent. What was the philosophic significance of the Socratic method? For Socrates, definition is the foundation of knowledge and morality. Definition, which is what the Socratic method achieves, gives us the true and enduring meaning of our concepts, such as justice, man, courage. And these definitions give us as well true moral ideas or standards by which to live. Plato's primary intention as a philosopher was to find definitions for the following concepts. What is the best type of state? What kind of government is just? What is justice? These questions led him into more fundamental questions, such as what is knowledge? What is the nature of reality? What is the nature of the physical world? What is the highest good for human beings? What is virtue or right conduct? How then did Plato go about constructing his philosophy? Like all philosophers who came after him, he philosophized in response to what had been thought by philosophers in the past. Plato built not only upon the philosophy of Socrates, but also upon the philosophies of earlier philosophers, the so-called pre-Socratic philosophers. The earliest philosophers of the Greek world of the 6th century had wrestled with the problem of explaining physical nature by asking, what is the one basic physical material out of which the world is made? They all agreed that the many different kinds of things we see in the world are all changes, transformations of only one kind of thing. But they disagreed as to what the one fundamental material out of which the many are formed is. Is it water, or air, or fire? In this way, a second major philosophic problem took shape, the problem of change, of the transformations of the one into the many. Does the one change into the many? Then how is it one? Are the many all merely variations, transformations, changes of the permanent, unchanging one? Then how are they many? The two sides of this debate were carried on by two outstanding pre-Socratic philosophers, Heraclitus and Parmenides. Heraclitus was a solitary, pessimistic member of the nobility of the city of Ephesus. Heraclitus argued that the fundamental character of reality is change itself. Everything in reality, said Heraclitus, is in process, in flux, is changing. He wrote, one cannot step twice into the same river, since it is endlessly flowing, changing, moving with fresh waters. By claiming that everything is change or flux, Heraclitus denied that anything can stay the same, that anything can be identical with what it has been or what it will be. And
Alright, motherfuckers, I'm out.